Begin today the Gemara on Daf Samach Tes Samad Beis, 3 lines from the bottom of the page. So the Gemara over here goes through different ibayas, different questions it has regarding the halacha of nullifying a neder or validating a neder. Sagt the Gemara Boy Rabbe, so Rabbe asked the following shaila. What's if a person says Kayim Lechi Hayom? The father or the husband, so he says to his daughter or his wife, I validate your neder today. Samahu. What does that mean? Miya Mirinan, do I say that because he added this word hayom, why is he adding this extra word hayom? If he's validating it, he's validating it. What does today mean? So do we say, Kamanda Amala Mufalechi Lemachar? From this we understand that he really is telling her that you made a ridiculous neder, I don't want you to do this. You know what? Today, one day I'll allow you to keep this neder, but it's understood that he means to tell her that I want this neder nullified for tomorrow. So that means that he basically nullified the neder tomorrow. So we accept this as a nullification. Next page. Or perhaps, in order to nullify the neder, he has to say clearly that I'm nullifying the neder tomorrow. He didn't say that he's nullifying this neder tomorrow. So therefore there's no nullification here. That's one shaila. The Gemara continues, now if you're going to say regarding this question, he didn't tell her that he's nullifying the neder tomorrow, so the neder is not nullified. Now the Ran adds over here to the Gemara that there's 2 points here. The point that the Gemara says here is that because he didn't spell out clearly that I'm nullifying it tomorrow, so therefore it's not considered to be a nullification. So, but it's mashper from the Gemara. But what's if you would spell out clearly that I'm nullifying it tomorrow? Then it would be a nullification. But the Ran says, the emphasis is a second point here. Maybe after the person said that I am validating your neder today, you can't nullify it tomorrow. Once it's validated one day, even if he only meant to say that it should be validated for one day, but that's it. The neder is validated and you can't nullify it after validation. That's another svara that we'll see right here in the continuation of the Gemara. The Gemara doesn't spell it out, but this is the basis also of the continuation of the Gemara. And the next question the Gemara asks, so what happens if Omalo, he tells her the opposite? He spells out, Mufr lechi lemachar. I'm nullifying your neder, but he says the nullification will be tomorrow. Samahu. What does this mean? Why did he mention lemachar? If he wants to nullify the neder, let him just nullify it. Why is he adding tomorrow? So do I say, because he said tomorrow, it's not going to work. Tomorrow he can't nullify it. If he says I'm nullifying it tomorrow, so what he's basically telling his wife is, I agree, you can keep your neder for today. So he already validated the neder today. So once he validated the neder, even though it was only for today, there's no nullifying a neder after you validate it. Or perhaps the way to understand these words is, he didn't spell out clearly that I am validating the neder today. When he tells her that I'm validating your neder tomorrow, even though he added the word lemachar, he really means to say from now the neder should be nullified. So therefore this nullification is accepted. Right, the Gemara continues, a 30 bayim. If a person makes a neder for 3 days, yeah.
It's for 3 days. So it will be all right.
Yeah, correct. So but that's making a neder. When you make a neder, you can choose whatever neder you want, whatever time frame you want, and whatever. But over here, when it comes to validating or nullifying it, not so pashut. Right now, the way the Gemara puts this is, if you validated it, there's no nullifying afterwards. That's the svara the Gemara says now. Third, correct. Well, we actually had before that there's a halacha of shoyel in ala kama. Once you validate a neder, you could request a heter on this that you validated it. Yeah, that there is a way out still. The Gemara continues, a 30 ibayi here. Now, if you're going to say regarding this ibayi we just asked, that that the way we'll understand what this person said, because he mentioned lemacha, so it's considered to be that he validated it today. So therefore, lemacha command isidami. The next day, the neder is like it's still here. You can't, once you validated it, you can't be mevatel the neder the next day. So the Gemara says there's a third shaila. Instead of a case where it was today versus tomorrow, how about if he said to her, Kayim lechi shah, I'm validating this neder for 1 hour or for 1 moment. So not a day, but just for 1 moment your neder could stand. Doesn't want to disappoint his wife. She made a neder, so she says, you know what, I give you, for 1 moment you can keep your neder. And then, so how do we understand this? You add it, so when you add Shah, what does this mean? As we'll see in the continuation of the Gemara, the reason why there's a difference between a day and an hour is because the time a husband or a father has to be mevatel the neder is only that day when the neder was made. So then, therefore, there's a svara to say, if I said I'm being mekayim the neder this whole day, so the entire day, the entire period that I could be mevatel the neder, I already validated it. So therefore it's too late. But if you're only saying for one moment, for a shah in this day, so then maybe you could still nullify it because it's still within the time frame that you have the rights to nullify it. So mahu. But here the question is, how do we understand when he added shah? Mi amrinan, so similar to the question that we asked before. Do we say, Commander Amala, it's as if he said to her, Mufalechi lachasha, because he's saying, I'm only validating the neder for one moment, that means that after that moment, the neder should be nullified, even though I didn't spell that out. Or perhaps we say, he never said that after that moment the neder should be nullified. So therefore the neder stands. Further, the Gemara asks a fourth question, if you'll say when he says to her, I'm nullifying the neder for one moment, we don't understand that means, that he's validating the neder for one moment. So we don't understand that means that he's nullifying it after that moment. Mihu. Where am I holding? 1 second. Mio amala. That's where I'm holding. Mio amala. Mio amala. If he tells her, what's going to be the halacha then? If he actually goes out and tells her, he says, Kayim lechi shah achas, and he adds right away, and it should be nullified the next hour. So he spelled it out clearly. What's going to be then? So me, amrinan, do I say, and this is similar to the question the Gemara asked before. Kiv in the kaimai, once he validated the neder for one moment, kaimai, that's it, it's validated, the neder stands and it's too late to revoke this. Or perhaps, kivin the kule yaime bara kome ubara faruhu. Okay, I said before, here there's a different svara. It's all within that time frame, within that day, that he has the rights to do whatever he wants with the neder, whether to validate it or to nullify it. So since he said, I'm only validating the neder for 1 hour, he gave himself time to then afterwards, within this day, to nullify the neder. So if he clearly spells out that after he's validating the neder for a moment, for an hour, so then after that time, he's going to nullify it, mahani, maybe it should work. It's still within that first day. Okay, so the Gemara has all these questions here. And the Gemara will try to bring a raya to at least answer the last question we asked. In this case over here, 1 hour, or 1 moment, 1 shot. Toshama, so the Gemara says, I'll bring you a raya from the following case by a nazir. Person's wife said, Hareni nizira, that she says to I'm a nazir. V'shama baila, and her husband heard the wife saying this. And v'omar, and what does the husband respond to his wife? He says, Vani, me too. Okay, if his wife is going to be a nazira, he's going to join her, he's also going to be a nazir. What does that mean? So now that he said that he's joining her, ein yachal lahafer. So that means that he basically validated this, that his wife is a nazira, and not only is he validating hers, but he also wants to be a nazir, so now he can't nullify her naziris anymore. Says the Gemara, but v'mai, why do we understand when he says va'ani in this way? Name, why can't we say that when he said va'ani, he meant as follows? Va'ani the Omar, when he says that me too, who al nafshei the have a nazir. He meant to say regarding himself that I'm also going to be a nazir. But aval hareni nizira di law, but this that his wife said that she's going to be a nazir, shah achas kaime. He only meant to validate his wife to be a nazira for 1 moment. In order that I should now be able to say that I'm a nazir like her, all she has to be is a nazir for 1 moment, and then I could say that I'm a nazir like her. But more than 1 moment, he never validated her naziris. But so why can't we say that shah achas kaime and la'achasha, and therefore after that moment, after that time, ibaya leifer. If he wants, he can then nullify his wife's naziris. So amai ein yachal lahafer. Why shouldn't he be able to nullify it afterwards? So the fact that he said va'ani about himself, that I'm going to be like my wife, that doesn't in any way show that he meant to validate his wife's naziris forever. He meant to validate it for now when he says the words va'ani, but not more than that. And afterwards he should be able to nullify it. So Lav, don't you think that the pshat over here is Mishum de Kivin, de Kaimai, that from here I see if you validate your wife's neder, in this case naziris, for just 1 moment, that's it. After that, you can't nullify the neder anymore. So therefore, she remains a nazira forever. So the Gemara says, no, there's no raya from here. In this case, when he says va'ani, we understand va'ani that he meant to validate his wife's naziris forever. Kasavar, the Tana of that Mishnah holds, kol va'ani, anytime a person says his wife makes a neder, in this case naziris, and he says va'ani, and me too, I should be like you, command dami. That's as if he spelled out clearly that I'm validating your neder forever. Because if you think about what the person is saying, if he's saying that I'm going to be a nazir as well, he didn't say I'm going to be a nazir for 1 hour. Regarding himself, he's saying he's going to be a nazir forever. So therefore, he's comparing himself to his wife, va'ani. So he's basically validating his wife's naziris forever, and his own naziris he's accepting upon himself as forever. So therefore, there's no raya from here. All the ibayis the Gemara asked before remains unresolved. Usually the klal is, whenever the Gemara uses the term imtim tzelayma, it means that we accept that side of the ibaya, and we paskin like that side.
It's just interesting. The making of the nether and the part of the nether is both in the Torah. So it has to be one dummy to the other. So the same rights this way, the same rights this way.
Okay, right here. No. Yeah. Okay, Zok Teilige Mishnah. This is our halacha that we already learned before. That Benigeya too, the father's koyach and the husband's koyach regarding this daughter, and I was speaking over here when there was a naira ma'arasa, when she only got married, the first stage of marriage. So Zok the Mishnah, Mei Sa'av, what happens if the father passed away? So until this point, the husband and the father together would be nullifying the neder. But now the father passes away. Loi nisreikena reshus labal. The father's rights over his daughter do not get emptied out or poured out to the husband. So whatever nedarim she made, you will not be able to nullify them. That's it. She's stuck with those nedarim. The husband does not get the rights from the father to nullify the nedarim. Meisa Baal, but in the reverse, if the husband is the one that passed away, then it's reikna reshus la'av. So then whatever rights the husband had in participating with the father to nullify the nedarim, the father that is, gets those rights and he could nullify the nedarim. It's in this detail that the power of the father is stronger than the power of the husband. But the Mishnah says, that's in another detail, the husband is stronger than the father. When is that? Regarding what is that? A husband has the power to nullify the nedarim of his wife, even in the time of Edison we're speaking about here, even when she's a begeres, which begins from the age of 12 and a half. She's a full adult, yet she's married to him, and he could be made for those nedarim. But the father cannot nullify the nedarim of his daughter when she's in the age of bagris, only when she's a katana or a naira. Okay, so that's the difference between the father and the husband. So the Gemara, my timer. So first the Gemara asks, what's the reason? Now, here the Ran explains, the Gemara is asking the reason, the Gemara wants to know, why should we not compare the husband to the father? If, as the Gemara will soon bring the source, that the father gets the rights from the husband when he passes away, so why? Maybe we should say that the reverse is true as well, because we see these two are made for together, so we should compare them to each other. If the father passes away, the husband should get the rights from him. So the Gemara answers, the father is different, because the pasuk says, Benurea beis avia. When she's still a naira, she's in the father's house. When it says there in the pasuk beis avia, what this shows me is that she is going to be in the father's beis avia even after the father passed away. Meaning, even after the father passed away, the husband will not get then those rights to nullify that part of the neder that the father was able to. Even after the father is not alive, she's still beis avia. She remains in the father's house. It doesn't say B'nereh, she belongs to the father. Beis avia, that means even after the father passes away, she remains there. From here we see that we don't compare the husband to the father to get the rights to nullify the neder after the father passed away. So now the Gemara is going to bring the source for this itself, that the father does get those rights. When the husband passes away, so now the rights of the husband get poured out to the father, and he could nullify the nedarim minala. So what's the source of this? Amar Rabbi, so Rabbi says, because when the pasuk speaks about a girl getting married in the first stage of marriage, the Edison, so it says a double lashon. If she gets married to someone and she has nedarim. So why does it say the double lashon of hayay and siyah? Says the Gemara. That means that she basically is getting married twice. How is she getting married twice? She got married to her husband, Kedushin, Edison, and that husband passed away, and now she's getting married a second time. So what's the pasuk saying here? The makish koidme havaya shniya, we compare the condition that she's in before the first marriage, l'kaid me'avoya, makish havoya shnia, that is, we compare her situation that she's in before the second marriage, l'kaid me havoya rishayna, to the situation that she's in before the first marriage. Just like it was before the first time she got married to her husband. The father is the one that has the full power to nullify all of his nedarim alone. And then the pasuk is saying, when she gets married, so now the father has to do it together with the husband. Even now, when she gets married a second time, before she gets married the second time, the father has the full control over his daughter to nullify the nedarim alone. Why? Because even though she was already married, but once the husband died, she completely goes back to the father's possession. The father gets all the rights to be mefer the nedarim of his daughter completely. So from here I see that she goes back to the father's possession. Frag the Gemara, maybe I should say, Hanamili, when is this halacha said that if the husband died, she goes back to the father's house and the father's control? This is only b'nedarim shlei nidu la'aris. Maybe this is only those nedarim that were not known, that were not shown or were not known to the aris. The husband never heard of these nedarim when he was alive. So for that I say, since the husband didn't know about them, he had really no control over them. So therefore, when he dies, she goes back to the father. The father could now be made for those nedarim. But maybe those nedarim that the husband knew about, and he was the one that had the rights and the control to decide if he's going to be made for those nedarim. So maybe when the husband dies, the father will not have the rights to nullify those nedarim. So the Gemara answers, no. If you're talking about nedarim she made when her husband was still alive, but the husband never knew about them, that I understand automatically from this, that the pasuk says, Binurea Beisavia. When the husband dies, what happens? Where does this girl go after the husband dies? Or really, where she's really a whole time? She's in her father's house. Elamai, even when she was living in her father's house, she was married already to this person. That's Edison. While she's living in her father's house, she's an Eishur, she's married to this person. But if these are nedarim that the husband never knew about, so I don't need a special pasuk to teach me that the father has the right to be made for the nedarim. This is the way the Ran explains this. I understand this misvara. Automatically I understand that if she's living in the father's house, it's the father that has the control over her, as the pasuk says, Binurea Beisavia. The chiddush over here is, even those nedarim that the husband knew about, and it was his decision, and he died, now those nedarim still go over to the father. Right? So in other words, really the difference is, in the case where the husband never knew about this, the husband had no shaykhis to these nedarim, the father doesn't get those rights to be made for nedarim from the husband. It's his rights over his daughter. Naturally, he has those rights. When the husband knew about it and then he died, and now the father gets the rights, he's getting those rights from the husband. That's the difference. And for that we need a special pasuk, Vimhoya Yisiyeh Le'ish.
She already started the neder already?
The neder is made. The question is whether the husband heard about it or not. No, not yet. No one was made for the nedarim. Right?
So nobody knew about it yet.
The husband didn't know about it,
and
correct?
The father didn't know about it.
Maybe he did. Doesn't say here that the father didn't know about it, but the husband didn't know about it. So in that case, the Gemara says you don't need any pasuk. It's pashut misvara that if the husband passes away,
and the husband knows, it goes back to the father.
Yeah.
But if the husband knew about it,
also goes back to the father. But that's a chiddush. That's a chiddush that the father gets the rights to be made for those nedarim from the husband.
But if he knew about it and kept quiet, so it's.
No. We had already before that it's talking about a situation where the husband didn't validate the nedarim. Once the husband validated it, that's the first. Once the husband validated it, it's too late. Okay, going to the next case of the Mishnah. So we said that that there's this situation we explained there. The father gets the koyach from the husband, so the father is stronger than the husband. But then it said that there's something that the husband is stronger. When's the husband stronger? That he could be made for the nedarim even when she's a begettes. Okay, so again, we're talking over here about a naira moirasa in the time of Edison, that the husband could be made for the nedarim when she's a begettes. Frek the Gemara, heichidami. What's the case we're speaking about over here? If the case over here is shekitcha keshehi naira. He was makadisher when she was still a naira. And then what happened? Ubagra. During the time of Edison, she became a begettes. She became the age of 12 and a half. And then what do we say? That the husband has the rights to fully be made for the nedarim. As long as she was a Naida, since this is a time of Edison, so the Nedarim have to be nullified together with the father. But now she became 12 and a half, so the father loses that power, and the husband gets the full power. That's what the Mishnah is saying. So in other words, what the Mishnah is really trying to say is that in a way, we have over here the husband getting that power from the father. Just like it said that the father gets the power from the husband, in this situation, the husband is getting it from the father. Says the Gemara, that can't be the pshat of the Mishnah, because Mechti, let's see, Misa Maitzia. If the father would die, so then she would be, so that takes out the control of the father over the daughter, if the father died. Ubagris mitzia. And over here, if she becomes older, she becomes a begeres, it also takes out mitzia mirishus av, it takes her out from the rishus of the father. So now ma mise, just like by mise, if the father dies, what do we say? What's the halacha? Loi misreik na rishus lebal. So true, she's not in the father's rishus anymore. The father's not here to be mefer nedarim, but she doesn't go into the husband's rishus. She doesn't get poured over into the husband's rishus. Those nedarim, the husband cannot nullify. So if so, we should say the same thing. Av bagris loy nisreik na rishus lebal. If she becomes a begeres and she leaves the father's rishus, she shouldn't now be going over into the husband's rishus. What's the difference? We already learned out from before, there's never such a thing that the husband gets the rishus over the daughter from the father. There's no difference whether the father died or whether she became a begeres, the husband doesn't get the rishus over those nedarim that were made while she was in the father's rishus. So that can be the pshat on the Mishnah here. So Ella, rather, the Mishnah is saying something else. Not that the father gets anything from the rishus of the husband. The husband, that is, gets anything from the rishus of the father. Ella, rather, shekitcha kishehi begeres. He was mekadesh her when she's already a begeres. She never was in the rishus of the father when he was mekadesh her. And on that we're saying that a husband is mekadesh this isha when she's a begeres, so he now has the rights to be mefer nedarim in the time of Edison. If that's what our Mishnah here is teaching me, we already learned this once. Where is this? What's this chadazimne? So this is actually a Mishnah later that speaks about this very clearly and more specifically on the Ayin Gimel. There it says habegeres sheshasa yud beis chaydish. So a begeres that's married, Edison, the first stage of marriage, and only, there the Mishnah says, only after 12 months of marriage. So if you remember, 12 months of the Kedushin, we learned in the Gemara Text that usually you give a girl after the first stage of marriage 12 months to prepare to get fully married. So now those 12 months passed, her time she needed to prepare is given, and still the husband doesn't marry her. Then over there the Mishnah says, in that case, the husband is able to be made for her nedarim. And it's considered to be like he's fully married to her already, so he alone could be made for an nedarim. That's the halacha that the Mishnah later explains regarding the rights of the husband over his wife of begeres. So the Mishnah already teaches this with these details. So why does the Mishnah have to say it here again? Now, before the Gemara answers this question, it clarifies the pshat and what this means. That by a begeres, only after her waiting 12 months, then I say that the husband could be made for the neder completely because he should have married her already. So it's like he's already completely married to her. So the Gemara asks on this, gufa kasha, there's a contradiction here, there's a problem here. Amrit, ha-begeres, sheshas ha-shnei masa chaydish, you're saying that if you marry a begeres, so then after 12 months, then I say that he could be made for the neder. That's the time when he's expected to marry her already. Begeres, you're talking about a begeres. Lama lishnei masa chaydish, by a begeres, she doesn't get time 12 months. Begeres belamed yom sagila, by a begeres she only gets 30 days. And we learned this in the Gemara in Ksubis, that regarding a naira, she's younger, she doesn't know exactly how to prepare. It's harder for her, so she gets full 12 months to prepare for her wedding and for being fully married. A begeres only gets 30 days. So why does it say 12 months? The Ran actually brings the whole discussion in the Gemara Ksubis that we learned, and over there the Gemara says that a begeres doesn't necessarily get 30 days, but what the Gemara there says is a begeres gets 12 months from the day that she became a begeres. Right, so if he actually married her exactly on the day she became a begeres, she will have 12 months. But still, the Gemara is asking, how could the Mishnah say that by a begeres it's 12 months? It's not necessarily 12 months. If it's already 6 months after she's a begeres, she only gets another 6 months. Whatever amount of time, we always count from the day she's a begeres, 12 months. So why is it saying 12 months? So the Gemara explains, and the Gemara Ksuba says this also, Tani, the way to understand that Mishnah is by Begeres. One case is he married her when she's a Begeres, and for that we give her whatever time a Begeres gets. Like I said, you count 12 months from the day she became a Begeres. And then another case, Vish Ashasa Yud Beis Chaydish, or he marries his wife as a Naira, and she was given 12 months, so it's considered to be as if he's fully married to her, and then he could be made for a Nedarim. So it's two different cases. Okay, either way, the Gemara comes back to the question, Mikol Mokim Kashye. The question is, if our Mishnah is coming to tell me the halacha that a husband could be made for the Nedarim of his wife when she's a Begeres, even though a father can't, why does the Mishnah teach that to me here if there's a Beferish Mishnah later that discusses it? What do I need the two Mishnayos? So the Gemara answers, two answers. Iba Yisayim, I can answer, Hacha Dafke. Here, the Mishnah is telling me this halacha. This is Dafke. This is where the Mishnah comes to say this halacha. Or Begeres, that second Mishnah which discusses this case regarding the Begeres, Katani Hasam Mishum Dubai Yeflugi Rabbi Eliezer Rabbanan. There, the Mishnah is going to bring up more details about it. There, the Mishnah is going to tell me that it's actually a machlokes between Rabbi Eliezer and the Rabbanan. So the Ran basically explains what the Gemara is saying is true. Our Mishnah tells you the din itself. It starts the halacha, and then later on it's going to specify more details. And there it's going to tell you the machlokes of Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbanan. So it's not just repeating what it said here. So there's no question. Ibai say, another answer, Begeres Dafke. It's the Mishnah later which will focus on this halacha, and that's the main place where it will discuss the rights of a husband over his wife when she's a Begeres. Now, why does it bring it up here? It's only here, it's derech agav. V'aydi the nasiv reisha bazeh, in the reisha of the Mishnah, the first part of the Mishnah, it says bazeh yofa koyach ha'av, that the father has a stronger koyach over the daughter than the husband. So Nasav Sefer Nami Bazeh. So on the Sefer, it says in the return that don't think that the father is always better than the husband. There is something that the husband is stronger than the father regarding the Begeres. But here it's only being brought derech agav.